well, I mentioned it because I looked around me and I thought, yeah, I'm ready to do this. I was in my study basically in New York, and when they were calling me, I noticed that behind me was a portrait of my father. I don't have a crazy thing about my father, but I did film once where they painted a portrait for him, for the story, and they gave it to me at the end. And it's quite good because it's taken from a photograph, so I put it up there. And then over here is a big photograph, a huge photograph of Marina Abramovich doing an autopsy on a new woman. And I see that, I see the father, I see the autopsy. I grew up in a medical family. I grew up around labs. I grew up around instruments and blood and all that kind of business. So I thought, yeah, I'm ready to do this. I have a little background in this.
And actually, the sewing, like when you actually sew the money into her, those are your hands doing that.
They are, and what was funny is, it's a very minor moment. So I don't know whether you remember, you just saw the film, but I've got these fake thumbs on. And it was really difficult, but they hooked us up. There was a rehearsal period that I can talk about a little later, but one of the things that we did besides our rehearsal period together was Ramy and I were working with a woman that worked at the morgue. She was very cool. And she taught us certain things about autopsy, taught us how to cut. We were using the period instruments that we would use in the movie, and where am I going with this? Help me out. I'm still in the track.
But the sewing.
Oh yeah, the sewing, and we learned how to suture. And then it was time to do that, and we even had a guy, a tailor, who was going to do it, but he couldn't do it. So I had to step in with those fake thumbs and do it, but obviously. Okay, it was something that, thank God, we practiced it, because that kind of stuff can really take forever. It breaks your heart because you can get hung up, as you know, hung up with prop stuff, and because it was a little detail that had to be done.
Well, you mentioned Marina Abramovich, and you know that I was one of the lucky ones. It was 10 years ago this week at the Park Avenue Armory.
Oh, you saw?
I saw you and heard you, and it was great seeing you
He's
there.
talking about a show, a Robert Wilson theater show that Bob Wilson about Marina Abramovich.
The life and death of Marina.
Yeah.
She's still alive, but it was a very heightened. It was a great experience. It was thrilling. But I wanted to ask, and not to make you talk about the makeup too much.
Yeah, no.
But I mentioned to the crowd, because we were talking about your past work, all the great stuff, and I mentioned Bobby Peru from Wild at Heart with the teeth,
Yes.
and you said that helped you understand that character.
Not even understand, it made me become that character. I guess we're talking about triggers that you have, external things that make you able to access things that you can't access intellectually. That they just make you feel a certain way, and something comes out. It's a part of your imagination that's lying dormant, and that's an excellent example, because when I don't know how many of you saw Wild at Heart or remember that character, but it was a very cool character, I thought. And I had double dentures, and when the dentures went over my teeth, so I couldn't close my mouth. So all the time I was like this. And if you do that, he's a sleazy guy, If you do that, you all of a sudden feel like, you want to chew on something, or you want to do something nasty, That was the key. You can't think that. You can't plan that, So when you work with a mask or external things, in this case, obviously a heavy makeup job and some body prosthetics, it changes how you feel, it changes how you look, you don't recognize yourself, you don't move the same way, and that's beautiful because it opens the door to pretending. It opens the door to being another person, or imagining a different way of moving, living being. And, you know, that's a gift because it doesn't come from, you know, plotting it out. It's a very natural thing, organic.
And even though you know, you did go through the hours to get it all on, you know, this is like the first time in a Yorgos movie with that kind of makeup. He doesn't like it, usually.
No, he's usually, in fact, I remember I was working on Aquaman with Nicole Kidman, and she worked with him on this film, Killing of the Sacred Deer.
Yeah.
And many of his earlier movies were famous for being very kind of deadpan performing.
Yeah.
Not, you know, it's hard to describe it. I think I can give you a general idea if you don't know the movies. You know, just not very expressive. And Nicole said, you know what he's going to do? He's going to tell you to stop acting, stop acting, stop acting. He hates acting. But the truth is, this is a slightly different movie, and you know, you can have your cake and eat it too. You can be rooted and still act, but it's elevated language. It's another period, so it is quite theatrical for what he normally does. But we also saw that in the theater.
Well, so in Budapest, where the film was shot, and I mentioned that it was about 95% of it was done on sound stages and in sets.
And a lot was built.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of fantastic things, and the post on it was very long, but it was incredible.
Well, so you're mostly in the London scenes, but how much were you able to visit?
Yeah, I was.
Go across the street to
Yeah, we did. You know, go over to Lisbon, check it out. It's really cool. And we did, and I was mostly in my house and some exterior stuff. But for example, there's a little scene where we have a fight where I have to chloroform her in a carriage. That was done actually in Lisbon. You know, we didn't see it, but I mean, but you know, when we had some time, we'd go for a little walk. But it was very complete, and this stuff was really built. The detail on this set was incredible. Like my house was so beautiful, and I used to just wander around and look at stuff, you know. And you could open up books in the library, take them out, and there would be period, you know, surgical diagrams. So it's when the world is so complete, it really tells you what to do, you know, because it's specific, and it doesn't remind you of anything, so you have kind of fresh impulses, because you got to throw out your impulses because you don't recognize anything. So it's a beautiful gift, and the thing about Yorgos is he's you know, he's really a polymath. That he knows a lot about many things. So with each department, he's very connected, and he really collaborates with them. And so everything has a reason, everything has a purpose, he's involved in it. So it's, you know, you have so much to work with on when the world is complete like that. In fact, I think that's the best thing a director can do.
Yeah.
Is give you a complete world.
Well, and on that point, because he gives them a lot of freedom too to just try things, and you know, if it's not going to work, just try it anyway. His department heads. But what about with the actors? Like, this is a great script.
Beautiful. Yeah.
But you don't have to depart that much from it. But does he want you to try something ad lib or?
Ad lib, not so much, because the language, the syntax is, you know, particularly hers. The way it's developed is very specific, and also mine. You know, besides an accent and written kind of a certain way, no, you don't want to mess with that. I'm not sure I could improvise, and nor would I want to. There was a wealth of stuff to do. You know, there was no reason to do that. You know, but to answer your question, he gives you setup, he sends you out, and really lets you kind of go, observes, and you know, pushes you a little this way, pushes a little bit that way. But there's not a lot of talking like, all right, that doesn't happen. I mean, it's mostly SAG people here, yeah? Okay, so you know this, but you know, I'm always impressed, and it hasn't changed. I've been working for a while, and it's always the same. You know, I'm always waiting to find that director that I always thought there was, but I've never worked with, that pulls you aside and has these long conversations about psychology or what you need to do. I've never experienced that. Like, get out there, do it, and I'll tell you if you're off base.
He also, I think, knows what he's doing when he casts his films. And so just to mention some, I mean, Mark Ruffalo is hilarious.
And that's inspired because, I've been doing some press with Mark, and he laughs. He says, it's such a departure from his sad dad roles. Kind of sensitive, worried, he's handsome, but he's got the kids. It's not that. He really leaned into this, and the beautiful thing was, when we were rehearsing, everybody was like, really? And then once we got to the place and it started to happen, it was like, yeah.
Well, also, Ramy Youssef is so sweet as you share so many scenes with him.
I did, and what you see is what you get. I mean, of course, it's a performance, but he's a very, I don't know if you know his comedy stuff, but smart, sweet, really thoughtful, kind, wonderful guy.
There were see, I don't know how many people you actually got to
Mark
meet.
is a louse. Just kidding.
Just wanted to point out, the name is not that famous yet.
Don't call me on that, please.
But Catherine Hunter plays the brothel owner, and she's amazing. And Hannah Shagula.
Hannah Shagula.
Someone here wanted to ask if you got a chance to meet her at all.
Just real quick, nothing's great, but when we had these rehearsals,
She
they
was
were very
the woman
important.
on the steamship.
Yeah, the interesting old lady, that hasn't had sex in 20 years and doesn't mind at all, which is, it's totally puzzling to the Bella character. Okay, we'd have these rehearsals, and what was interesting about it was we played theater games. We didn't apply ourselves to the scenes. Sometimes we'd use the text, but we used it abstractly, It was beautiful because it got us used to the language and let us play with it, and also helped us, memorize it and find rhythms and find music. But we didn't do the scenes. We didn't talk about character. We played theater games. And, these were things that I thought, I used to do this when I was young, But they were conducted so beautifully by Yorgos that not only did he make company and create a dynamic that was playful and people could fail in front of each other, and it also gave us his language, his way of being. So it was really, really useful. Well, that was mostly Ramy, Emma, Mark, and then other people would come in, but the core of us was that. And some of these other people would come in for one day. And Hannah Shagula, I don't know how well people know her, but I know her work really well because I was a huge Fassbinder fan, and she was kind of a muse for him. She came in and she was like, she thought this was all bullshit. And I remember Mark came up and said, he was trying to be, connected. He was like, oh, Miss Shagula, I'm so honored to meet you. And she said, that's stupid. She was pretty hardcore. But she works very well in the movie, and it's one of those things that because really she occupies a place in my head, so it's kind of one of those little pleasures where, did I ever think I'd be in a movie with Hannah Shagula? No. But I is.
Someone from the audience asked me to ask you about auditioning. What was the last time you did it, and do you have any advice for actors Doing that.
You know, to be honest, I auditioned very little because I was very lucky because I was a theater actor. People saw me at the theater, and I started up, and it was an avant-garde theater. It wasn't a commercial theater, so it was and that was my identity. You know, I was a downtown guy. You know, and I mean, sure, I auditioned. I mean, for example, I put myself on tape for Spider-Man. You know, so I did some of that, but not so much, because normally I was at the theater, and people would come to see me, or after some movies, you know, you can say, look at the movies. So I did do so much auditioning, not like a lot of people have. So I was fortunate. But the only thing I'd say is, and I experienced this because I've been involved in the casting. I've been on the other side of the casting, not as a director, but as an actor with the director, looking at other actors. Just remember that the second you, I think you know this, but the second you walk in the door, they figure things out in about 3 seconds. And so the best thing is, you don't, you know, the most important thing, maybe the most important thing about performing is just be present, and don't feel like you have to produce anything. Be there the best you can. It's not just a case of over-promising and, you know, underselling and all that. It's really, you know, for me, and I think for a lot of people in that casting process, that when they're on the other side, if you feel too much need, it repels you. Because you want someone to get there that you feel like can take it, you know, can take it, and if they don't know where they're going, or they're lost, they're not going to freak out, and you can work with them. But if you feel like someone that needs too much, or they're too much in your face, you know, some people like that, I guess, but that you're like, I don't know. Also because it seems egotistical, you know, it's like, look at me, look at me, look at me. And you gotta take the edge off of that and just walk in and try to be with the people and connect, you know, in the most basic, I'm saying really obvious things. I tried.